Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mother Mantle. Look who's here
back.
with me. Today we wanted to talk about keys to a fulfilling marriage, and obviously did not feel like I could talk about this topic without you.
Yeah.
And want to share a little disclaimer. We've only been married for 3.5 years, so we're not total experts, but we do have a very loving, fulfilling marriage. Like, I can genuinely say I love being married to you.
Yeah. It's the greatest gift that, I can speak for myself, but the most amazing gift besides salvation. It's beautiful and I love it. I love our family.
Yes. So we just kind of walk you through what we feel like God has put on our hearts for these key essential things for you guys to have a fulfilling marriage. And this is in no way shaming you or saying this is the only way. I think there are some other really important keys as well, but this is just what we feel like is the foundation.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that we're going to bring up is the purpose of marriage. So God designed us to be in relationship with one another, and He designed marriage, the covenant, to be filled with purpose. When we were going through premarital counseling, which I highly recommend because it confronts a lot of issues that will give you some heartache or annoyances later, and it kind of gets in front of them, so you know how to deal with stuff before you're living with someone and their dirty clothes are on the floor and stuff. So great tool.
Right.
But in here we kind of made a commitment statement, and ours was that our marriage was going to be about making disciples. And so we're all Christians are commissioned to make disciples of all nations and teach them to obey the commands. And so we met each other in youth ministry, and we both just loved seeing youth come to the Lord. It was something that we just craved it. And as we're moving forward in our marriage, our scope has expanded, so to speak, and now in business, in serving in youth and serving at the church and stuff like that, the purpose of our whole marriage is to work together in one accord to make more disciples, because one can get 1,000 but two can get 10,000. So your marriage must have purpose, or it doesn't have a kind of an end goal. So it's kind of like you're striving for you're not striving for anything pretty much. So,
and I totally agree. If you don't have purpose in your marriage, then you're just wandering. And I feel like when you're wandering, it allows a lot of room for you to get critical, for you to get jaded, for you to be what are we even doing?
Right.
And just start questioning why are we doing this? Because it is sacrificial and you are giving up something. And so if you've got that end goal that says, oh no, we're going somewhere with this, we're doing something and we're on a mission, then you're gonna stay on track. So purpose is extremely important in your marriage.
Yeah. And point 2 is recognizing that you are selfish. I'm selfish. She's selfish.
The nerve. I'm
selfish. But we have to look inward at ourselves. When you get in a relationship with someone, you've lived your entire life just for yourself.
Yep.
And
living your life.
When you enter just living life. When you enter a covenant with someone, that change, don't expect it to happen instantly, but you're still selfish.
Right.
I'm still selfish today. I've only been doing this for 3.5 years.
Right.
But we daily need to look inward and say, hey, why am I selfish? Is it the way that I grew up? Is there certain things that I do that I can do better? For instance, she doesn't like when my socks are on the ground, and I know that. So I make every effort It's a really small thing, you know. I make every effort to put my socks in the dirty clothes, and she'll even wash them for me. Like, let's talk about sacrifice. But the cool thing about when you're recognizing that you're selfish, and fixing that, so it's moving you from pride to being humble, and it's moving you from a place of sacrificing for someone, saying like, oh man, I like have to do this because I'm married, you know, like I'm doing this to make her happy. It starts to move from a place of sacrifice to a place of, I legitimately just want her to be pleased. I want her to be happy. I don't want anything that I do to cause her to be upset, you know?
Yeah.
And it's pretty much like how when we come to Christ, and, you know, like a lot of people think like, oh my gosh, I have to follow all these things. I have to do all these things. And it's overwhelming. But when you truly experience the love of God, when you're washed by his blood, it turns from that place of, I have to follow this rule book, to, man, I want to do everything that God is asking me to do in his word because I love him and because I want him to be pleased. And it's the same with marriage.
Yeah.
So.
I really feel like God uses the covenant and marriage to push us further to look like Christ and to be like more Christ-like. And part of that is acknowledging that we are selfish and sinful people. Like every day I have someone there that I'm accountable to. And that's the thing, whenever you're single, you know, you're really kind of, you know, besides your friends or your parents, like you're really kind of just like living your life. And like, maybe if you run into conflict, you're like, ooh, I could see how, but like, this is every single day, like day in, day out, where I'm like, what my actions have like an instant effect or consequence on my family. And so I'm constantly seeing like, whoa, when I spend outside of our budget, that's really selfish to our family because, you know, we've set up these parameters for our family to succeed and to flourish. And so those are things when I'm single, I'm like, oh, whatever, I'll figure it out. Like I'll eat ramen noodles for the next 2 weeks. You know, but now you can't live in that like secrecy. You really like, truly things come to the light. But what's so beautiful is that you're in this protected covenant where it's like you're exposed but covered at the same time, you know, like he sees all of me, but he still like covers me, and like we're working out our salvation together, you know, and it's safe. And so that's why I think marriage is like this beautiful process where you're really starting to see and uncover things you didn't know about yourself. But at the same time, like those things are being healed and you're being renewed and transformed to look more like Christ, which is the goal. That's the end goal.
Right. And some like the scripture that we try to live by is in 1 Corinthians 13. You hear it at every wedding. But we just went to a wedding yesterday, so that's why. Right.
We're like on this like marriage.
But 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7 says, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance.
So like what in that verse, like what stood out to you the most? Because I know it.
It's like keeping no record of being wronged. When I was in previous relationships before coming to Jesus, it was like you know, I always felt like my past mistakes were like hindering me from a relationship moving forward, or and stuff like that. So it's like, hey, like I made mistakes, but Bree isn't like, oh, you did this at 11:47 a.m. Like 2 years ago. You know, like because she loves me, she's like, hey, like you made this mistake. Your freaking socks were on the floor this morning, but I'm not gonna bring all that stuff up every time we're having a disagreement with each other.
Right. I think it's so funny. It says like love isn't irritable, which I know it's that version, but that I relate to that like on a like deep level, because I think what that means is like I have grace for you and you have grace for me. So like, you know, if one of us didn't get enough sleep, like there's grace for that. Like I'm not gonna like have this attitude or whatever, because it's like at the end of the day, like I know his intentions are always right and pure and are for me, you know. And I think when you're irritable or like you get easily offended, it's because there's this fear that maybe this person isn't for me, and so it's really rooted into like this like fear-based, like selfish, like but. Yeah, when you feel like loved and like, I don't know, there's just like grace for each other and what we go through the day, you know?
Right. And so this is like, you know, the Bible says whoever does not know love does not know God, because God is love. So what that's telling me is like the way that I can become more like Jesus, I just read it. You know, I have a guide, and it also says in I don't know if it's the same one, but it's in Ephesians. It says, husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church. He gave his life up for it. So it is a constant. Our last point was to walk in love, but it's a constant laying down your life for each other, being for each other, you know, forgiving each other, and literally just going towards the same purpose, you know. So just to encourage you guys, if you haven't made that commitment statement in your marriage, jot one down. And I don't remember ours word for word, and I don't have it like posted up on my wall or anything like that. But we know it like exactly what we want to do. So if either of us are ever moving out of that, we can check each other in love and be like, hey, like this isn't what our family is about. We're trying to make disciples. If this is going to hinder us from making disciples, then we don't want it.
Yeah.
And you know, like that has just been our driving force, our whole marriage. And it has given us purpose. It's given us vision. You know, when we feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, we get to look to purpose. We look to Jesus and what he did for us on the cross. And when I remember what Jesus did on the cross for us, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Because it's like, man, a God that would send his own son to die on a cross for each and every one of us, and literally be tortured and whipped and flogged and just endure all the punishment that we deserve. It says for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. Just crazy. Like I can't even fathom the amount of love that he has for us. And I can go on, and we're at 13 minutes and 15 seconds. So,
we swore
we're trying to do 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We almost there.
Did not happen.
All right. Love you guys. If you didn't have anything.
Yeah. Hopefully this is encouraging. And I always just like to say, hey, if you're like, man, my husband and I were so off from there, like, that's okay. Like start today, you know, like make today the day that you're like, you know what, the focal point of our marriage is going to be Jesus, what he did on the cross for us. And then from that, like we're going to love each other out from that love that Jesus loved us with.
Right.
Words today. But yeah, so you can start today. And we love you guys, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or comments or just need encouragement or prayer. We would love to pray for you guys and your family and your families. But yeah, thank you so much. Have a bye.
Bye.